As you know, on Sunday night or Monday morning of every week, we post a new expository semiotics explaining why we would choose which lectionary readings. But in these readings, our dream is, and our desire is, to help you read the signs and fondle the details and spot the seminal metaphors, the condensed signs and the stories that are key for preaching to a digital culture. So strap on your seatbelt and join us as we prospect our passages for today.
Leonard Sweet here for the 12th of September, 2021. LenTalk, I forget the number. It's 70-something, maybe almost 80, I don't know. But I want to pause a lot of lectionary readings and passages. I want to pause on two, very briefly, Psalm 116. You've heard this psalm before. You've read this psalm before. You may even have sung the song before. And the phrase that I just want to hold up and highlight for you is this phrase, and you know it, that he inclined his ear unto me. Maybe even have sung it in a cantata. He inclined his ear unto me. But it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to picture it. I want you to picture this in your imagination. Your body, is a temple of imagination. So let your imagination roll and picture what it means that God does what? Inclines God's ear. I mean, the word here is to stoop down, to bend down, to take your ear and to hold it so that you can pick up every single word, sigh, care, concern. This notion out there that God doesn't care about the details, that the details are too small for God. God cares about, no, God cares about all the details of your life, your sighs, your cries, your concerns, your cares. God cares for you, and God inclines God's ear to pick up all the signals, all those sighs, every day. So you wake up of a morning. Maybe you need to tell somebody this. Do you know, today God's going to incline God's ear so God can pick up every little care that you have, every little concern. Isn't that gorgeous? I mean, what an incredible, incredible phrase. God inclines God's ear to you and to me. But the passage I really want to park on is this great passage in Mark 8. I've got the eagle here, so I should be reading from John because the eagle's a symbol of John's gospel. But at any rate, from Mark 8, where Peter finally claims and confesses, "You are the Messiah." And Jesus, finally, and in front of all the disciples, Peter leads the way. You are the Messiah. So he gets that right. But then Jesus goes on to say, okay, now this is what it means for me to be the Messiah. And he gives a portrayal, a portent, a prolepsis of the future. This is what it means. There's going to be suffering. There's going to be a cross involved. There's going to be death. There will be resurrection. But this future that I have for you as a follower of me, it may not be the one that you think of with that word Messiah. And when Jesus is done telling his disciples about the future, it says that Peter took him aside, literally pulled him aside away from the other disciples and rebuked him. No. That's not what it means to be the Messiah. You got the wrong understanding, Jesus, of what it means to be the Messiah. We're following you because this is what we think it means for you to be the Messiah. And Peter thinks Jesus needs some help in understanding the prophetic role of what it means to be the Messiah and the Messiah's mission. That's an incredible moment. Can you imagine? Taking Jesus aside and rebuking him and saying, you got this wrong, Jesus. This is not what it means. We're following you for other reasons than, persecution, suffering, death. And this is not the future that we had in mind here. You got this wrong, Jesus. This is what John Calvin says in his commentary on this passage. Let me read it to you. Yet Christ could not have conveyed his censure in harsher or more disdainful language. Get behind me, Peter. No, he just said, get behind me. What? Satan. The only other time Jesus used this is in actual temptation scenes. Mark 4, Luke 4, where of all the temptations, Satan saves the biggest one to last. And the last one is, are you ready? Jesus, he takes Jesus up to a high mountain, shows him all the kingdoms of the world, all the nations of the world, the whole cosmos, and says, this is all yours, Jesus. This is all yours. I'm going to give it to you. You don't have to do anything hard or harsh, no suffering, no pain. All you have to do, you can have all of this, all the authority and power in the world, but you just have to do one thing, just worship me. You want to know how important worship is? Ask the devil. He's willing to give it all up. Everything, if Jesus will just worship him. And you know what Jesus says to that highest of all the temptations? Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Satan. And this is what Jesus says to Peter. Get behind me, Satan. The ultimate temptation is to see following Jesus as one of success, privilege, symmetry, surmounting all others. No. Following Jesus means something different. Let me go on with John Calvin here. This is the rest of his commentary. Christ reproves this phrase so sharply, this rebuke so sharply, and bruises it, as it were, with an iron hammer. This is Calvin. To teach us that it is only from the Word of God that we ought to be wise. In other words, the wisdom of the world is very different than the wisdom of the Spirit. Get behind me, Satan. Now, there's a couple of things here I want to mention. One is, there is a directional focus here. And there are some translations go, get away, Satan. Just go away. But that's not exactly correct here. There is a direction. It's not just scatter. It's behind. Behind. This is so needed today. This age of conspiracies everywhere. The devil everywhere. What is to be in the front of our vision is not looking out for Satan everywhere. Oh, there's the devil there. There's the devil there. There's Satan there. There's Satan there. What is to be in front of us is Jesus. Jesus is our vision. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my life. So Jesus is to be in front of us. We're looking for Jesus. We're not looking for, where's the devil here? Where's the devil there? Oh, I see the devil over there. Oh, there's the mark of the beast over there. We got a whole time in history right now. Everybody's looking for, they're seeking out the devils. No. The devils are to be behind us. What is to be before us is Jesus. We're following Jesus. We're not hunting down devils. We're following Jesus. And where he leads us, we will what? We'll follow. So that's the first thing. Don't put the devil in front of you in your line of vision. Get behind Satan, behind me. The second thing here that is so huge is that the Protestant Reformation rediscovered, although we haven't enacted it fully or embodied it, something called the priesthood of all believers. At your baptism, you were ordained into ministry. We are all priests to one another. And some of our traditions and tribes are just now understanding that. But more than that, we are now undergoing a period, I believe, where we are starting to see not just that we're all called to be priests, not just the priesthood of all believers, but the prophethood of all believers. That we are now, all of us are called into a prophetic ministry. We have been called out not just to be ministers to each other, but to be prophets in the world. Now, a prophetic function is not just foretelling, it's forthtelling. So it has a function of both. But there has to be this prophetic role now that involves the future, because we have moved in my lifetime even, arguably, from a world of fixity. Oh, then it went to flexibility. But now it's all fluidity. This is a world where everything is moving. Nothing is stationary or still. In a still world, a stationary world, a fixed world where you can count on stability, how do you hit that kind of, you can carpe diem, you can seize the moment. But in a world where everything is moving, remember Wayne Gretzky, the great hockey player, what's your success? Well, I just hit the puck to where the skater is going to be, not where he is. It is not a carpe diem world. You reach out to where things are, and the world's moving all the time. So you're going to miss it. It's a carpe mañana world, if I could have a little fun here with Latin and Spanish. It sees tomorrow. The only way you can hit a moving target is to get ahead of it. It's quarterback 101. You don't throw it to where the receiver is. You throw it to where the receiver is what? Going to be. And so we all now have got to exercise this prophetic role to get ahead of it, to think ahead. Not just to think, okay, this is where things are right now. No, but they're moving. They're moving. That's why this whole thing about best practices, well, you learn a best practice because that's what worked in the past, but I'll guarantee you wed yourself to best practices and you're wedding yourself to what's not going to work in the future, because the future is a whole different world. It's coming at us all the time. And the key is, that's why this prophetic function is so important here. And as we exercise these prophetic roles here, to call people to where Christ is ahead of us, that's why we keep him in the front. He's already there. We don't bring Jesus to anybody. He's already there. We're catching up to him. He went ahead of his disciples. It's a phrase over and over again in the Gospels. Jesus went ahead of them. He's always ahead of us. We're always looking for where he already is in this future and to join him in what he's already doing. And so in this prophethood of all believers, there are things that you do to exercise your prophetic role. Sometimes it is just to be silent. You ever think about Jesus as sometimes silent? He answered not a word. To whom was he silent? Well, he was silent to Herod. He was silent to Pilate. He was silent to the chief priests and scribes. Well, maybe we could learn some things from Jesus about whom to argue with and to whom to give the silent treatment. Prophets sometimes give the silent treatment. I call it the death dismissal. You don't even engage with speech. You engage with silence. And your silence has speech itself. The other thing, that if you're going to exercise and learn this prophetic role, the priesthood and prophethood of all believers, you're going to have to brace for some feedback. And that feedback will come in the form of backlash and pushback. And this is the punishment for all the prophets, is that they saw the dawn before the rest of the world, which often the rest of the world mistook for dusk. Here's the great Arthur C. Clarke. If by some miracle a prophet could describe the future exactly as it was going to take place, his predictions would so sound far-fetched and so absurd that everyone would laugh him to scorn. And if you're not being laughed at, as Jesus was, if you're not being mocked as you exercise this calling people to this future and helping them to get ahead, there's this phrase that, what was it? Gallo, we will sell no wine before it's time. A prophet is always selling wine before it's time. We're always violating this principle because we're helping people to see, oh no, this is what is coming. This is where we're headed if we keep going in this direction. Here's the original introduction to Animal Farm, the George Orwell's classic, 1945, never published in his lifetime. At any given moment, there is an orthodoxy, a body of ideas which it is assumed that all right-thinking people will accept without question. It is not exactly forbidden to say this, that, or the other, but it is not done to say it. Just as in mid-Victorian times, it was not done to mention trousers in the presence of a lady. You would never think of doing that. Anyone who challenges the prevailing orthodoxy finds himself silenced with surprising effectiveness. If the intellectual liberty, which without a doubt has been one of the distinguishing marks of Western civilization, means anything at all, it means that everyone shall have the right to say and to print what he believes to be the truth, provided only that it does not harm the rest of the community in some way. Quite unmistakable. In other words, you challenge the prevailing trends, trajectories, thoughts, themes, as Jesus did. You exercise the prophethood of your ministry. And there will be pushback. And there will be feedback. And there will be what I call coughing. We've got to get used to the coughing. If you're in a room and the windows and doors haven't been opened in quite a while, and suddenly you open a window and let in fresh air, you know what everybody starts doing? They start hacking. They start coughing because their lungs are cleaning out all the dirt and the dust and the pollen that it's been used to. And so this coughing that's going on is actually a good thing. It sounds awful. And sometimes there's not just hacking and coughing. There'll be some spitting, and you'll get spit in the face sometimes. But that's a good thing because people are getting used to the fresh air, to the real breath that is outside and pure and clean. And that's what Jesus brought. He brought in this fresh air, and people started coughing, and even his disciples, like Peter, start coughing and hacking and spitting, even in his face. Rebuked him to his face. That's not what it means to be Messiah. That's not the Messiah. And so we have got to get used to the hacking and the coughing if we're to follow Jesus. And that's what it means to follow the Messiah. We follow where he leads us. And wherever that is, we are trusting in him to show us the way. This is one of my biggest discoveries in my life right here. It was a turning point. A huge turning point. At 17, I deconverted from Christianity. I mean, I grew up, and some of you may have read my book, Mother Tongue, the story of my preacher mom and how I was brought up. And then I had a deconversion experience at a camp meeting, okay, while I was playing the organ. It's a whole other story. And so I became, for 6 years, from 17 to 23, I just went, some people so wild oats, I planted a prairie. I mean, I went on a journey. I became an atheist and a Marxist. I had a little Maoist phase. I carried the little red book with me for a while, and I was searching. Where am I going to land here? And I'll never forget, one of the most incredible moments of my life was when Baba Ram Dass appeared in Indianapolis for it was supposed to be a lecture. And he was at a convention center. It wasn't a stadium. It was a convention center, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people. And I thought, here's this Eastern mystic. I mean, he and Timothy Leary were at Harvard experimenting with psychedelic drugs. They got kicked out of Harvard, and they both went in different directions. His name is Richard Alpert. Alpert went in the direction of Eastern religions, and he took the name of Baba Ram Dass. I was reading him and some Alan Watts and some other things. I'm not sure I was reading Alan Watts yet, but here was Baba Ram Das appearing at a convention center, and it wasn't that much to get in. So I thought, I'm just going to go and hear what he has to say. So I went in. I'll never forget. I went to the top of the balcony in the back row. I'm a backslider. I'm always sitting in the back row wherever I go. I'm there by myself, and they announced that he will be out in a second. So the whole crowd, the place was packed, gets quiet. They get really quiet. Everybody's waiting. And when he comes out, when Baba Ram Das comes out, he doesn't say a word. It's very, very quiet. And he doesn't greet the crowd. He just goes, and he's got like a living room set up. And there's a carpet and a couch and a chair, and he's got a little kind of library table with he lights some candles, and then he gets out a picture of this kind of Indian guru, and he sets it up, and then he lights some incense and does it around the picture, and he lights a couple more candles, and he kneels in front of the picture, and he's spending about 15 to 20 minutes getting his space right and honoring. Who is that? Oh, that's his guru. That's his Baba. He took the name Baba from him. And all of a sudden it hit me harder than a ton of bricks. And this is the start of my reconversion back into Christianity right here, in some ways. Everybody follows somebody. Let me repeat. Everybody follows somebody. Even the Baba Ram Das that everybody was there to hear. Even he follows somebody. And when he started speaking, he didn't speak about himself. He spoke about how much he loved his Baba and how much it meant to him to follow his Baba. And the wisdom that he was going to share was the wisdom that he learned from. And I'm going, whoa. Everybody, me, you can't get out of life without what? Following somebody. Even if you're following a celebrity, or if you're following an intellectual, or even if you create your own mix and match of people, you're still following somebody. Everybody follows somebody. And then it hit me so hard, not just in my head, but now it hit me in my heart. Can you find anybody better to follow than Jesus? Is there anybody who's ever lived that is better to follow than Jesus? Maybe I've misunderstood this whole Christian tradition. It's not following these doctrines. It's not following these rituals. It's not following these principles or even tribes. And when I started addressing that question, and I put Jesus in front, and just as Baba named himself, Richard Alpert, after his guru, I am now Baba Ram Das. So I began putting Jesus in front. Get behind me all these things that I had been following before. And I am a follower of Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back. No looking back to see who's behind me even. I have decided to follow the one before me.
Semiotics is the art of angling, of turning things askew, upside down, inside out, cattywampus, sunny side up, over easy, scrambled, hard-boiled. We hope you enjoyed today's journey, but always remember, it's more important you prepare the preacher than you prepare the sermon.